All right, I'm rolling. You're gonna talk to me. All right, tell me that story again. How'd you wind up at Falling Creek, Jerry?
I was
Talking to me.
I was approached by Gladson, who was maintenance person at that time. He worked by himself, and after working with him one spring, he asked, evidently talked to York, and York called me to come to work, and he called me in February of '83. Come work full time as maintenance here at Falling Creek, and that's been 35 years ago.
Did you make up what maintenance did as you went along? I mean, since there wasn't anybody really full-time above you, or, what was it? How'd you know what to do?
Well, Gladson pretty much kept the lead. He mainly was showing me where things were in the ground, because nothing is, all power lines and everything are in ground, not above ground, throughout the whole camp, where all the plumbing is in ground, and the septic tanks, and various things such as this, but we had very little to work with as far as tools and place to store things. Our storage area consisted of a shed roof on one of the cabins and the staff cabins, which was called the kitchen boys cabinet at that time, and most of our plumbing supplies and things were kept in number 2 wash tubs and 5-gallon buckets, or laying on the ground. That was it. That was considered all we had. So it was years later before we actually built a building.
Tell me about some of the characters you've seen over the years. The guys that have been there, everybody says, yeah, that's a real character. Some of the outstanding personalities, for better or for worse, by the way. This is a no-holds-barred interview. We'll edit it, and everything. But the alumni are going to watch this thing, and they'll say, oh, you'll bring up somebody's name, they'll say, oh, yeah, kind of thing.
Right. Well, right offhand, I can't think. I don't work directly with counselors most of the time. Most of the time, especially then, I was by myself a lot. So, working on very different things. Even from cutting trees, mowing, and fixing whatever broke, screen wire or whatever.
All right, well, we'll back up then. Tell me how much. What were the big-time radical changes in your period that were here? I would imagine probably the last 10 years. But other than that, what changed from the time you got here in '83?
Well, actually we built the sleep cabin as one of the first big buildings, the bigger buildings, and then we done all the river pasture was all cleaned up and done pretty close to the same period of time. Bill and myself cleared out the property for the lodge to be built, plus adding on to the dining hall now 4 times, which more and more improvements each time. Building 2 cabins in Iroquois line, adding on to one of the cabins in Iroquois line twice, which was the Indian War at that time. Now it's cabin. Apart from the lodge and the new office and the gymnasium, and we went from no tractor to 3 tractors now, 4 actually now. So we've come a long way since. Because when I came here, there was no tractor, 0 to work with. We had very little.
Just one road into camp, and that was about it.
One road in, and we pulled a lot of people out of the ditch that came in on opening and closing day. When you got too far off the edge of the ditch or somewhere, and we had to pull them out or get a wrecker. Depends on how far below the bank they were. So.
Well, over the years, what are some of the stories? Now, you just had one about that were kind of a challenge for you personally. I would imagine having a couple of cabins burned to the ground was pretty. That's a pretty crazy story. What other stories happened over the years you had to kind of deal with that were not?
Well, apart from this cabin burning, we had one cabin to fall during the summer. The post went rotten, and the cabin just creeped down and fell flat on the ground. And Bill and myself jacked it back up and put new legs on it from from the ground back up to where it originally was.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had one also to fall in the Iroquois, but we were working on it in the wintertime. And had part of it jacked up. We had a huge storm come through, and the building fell down the hill 5 feet. So we jacked it back up, pulled it back up the hill, and put it back up. And put new posts back under it.
What, that wasn't in the summer, was it? Or
No,
what?
that's the winter. That's the winter time there. The first one that fell down was in the summer. Toward the end of the season, when there's a cabinet we were not going to use anyway. Fortunately, there's nobody in it. It was empty. We were not using the cabinet at that time.
Tell me the story you told me before about that boy that was buried down there.
Oh, it was a young man that had died, a camper, after camp had closed, thinking more like October, and they came, the family brought his ashes up here, and some of his schoolmates came and buried his ashes there near the dining hall and planted a tree, which is still there today, and it passed away.
Any other stories like that that are kind of a personal?
Well, I remember Hal Rutherford. It was a climbing counselor, hiking counselor here. We got a call sometime after camp closed that he had leukemia and he didn't survive very long after that.
What was his name again?
Hal Rutherford.
Hal Rutherford. I've never heard that.
He passed away. Rusty Copeland was a few years before I came here. He also fell off the waterfalls. Passed away. He was a basketball counselor.
I've heard that one. I've heard that story. What are some of the biggest challenges, other challenges you might have had as trying to keep everything together here?
Trying to keep everything together?
Yeah.
It's hard to say. There were so many things going on at the same time. We were building, one year we were redoing the swim docks. And Bill and myself had lowered the water, and we were coming up from 5 feet below the water up with a new 2-story section, replacing everything. At the same time, only 2 of us, we were building the new stables or new barn for the horses to be in. Like 25 stalls. 2-story building there. It's much larger, and you're going to have to cut that out.
I'll stop for a minute.
On your back.
We're back. Yeah, what was, tell me about that. Everybody talks about the old barn. What was the old barn? What was the barn like when you got here?
The old barn was put together real quick. My understanding from Gladson, the first year they had camp, but there's only 70 campers. They were tying the horses in the trees and they put the barn together while the camp was going on. And they put it together fairly quickly. It was, needless to say, rustic in look. It's somewhat smaller than it is now. So we tore all that down and regraded the property and built the building, which is now pre-existing building, which we still have today. Works very well. But that was a challenge for 2 of us to get all that in. And
Just 2 of you built stables?
2 of us.
Really?
And the swim docks at the same time. We had dug the footings for that barn, and then we got 6 inches of snow and sleet, which in March, which did not leave for about 3 or 4 weeks, so we couldn't get a cement truck up here to pour the footings. So the challenge was on to finish before all the campers arrive, and radio or not, here they come. Regardless where we're ready, they will be here. So we used some counselors and finished up the last bit of woodwork a few days before camp opened. So it was a challenge to get everything done. We also built the climbing wall in 1990, I think. It's the first thing we built after Chuck McGrady bought the camp. And it's 40 feet high.
How did you design, or who designed it, or did you just build something?
They just sketched me a little what they wanted to look like on a piece of paper, and we built it. That's all I got. That's all we needed. So
So before you came to Fallen Creek, tell me what'd you do? What was your background in building?
I worked both residential and commercial carpenter work in construction. Done both, and I was working with Daniels Construction before I came here in Greenville, South Carolina, and actually worked in the Daniel Building downtown Greenville for a number of little jobs. I was all over Greenville building different things.
Yeah. But so but I mean, you're at a point now because you talk like see, I come from construction. My dad had a construction company for 5 generations. I did it when I was in the summer. You talk a lot like a superintendent. I mean, in other words, you don't talk like a carpenter. You have the capability to build the stables. You and one other guy. That's foreign to me, kind of things. I was just wondering where you got all these skills from. But I guess you just figured it out. I mean, just over the years.
Well, to me, building is a lot of fun. So it's hard work, but it's still a lot of fun, and you can see your progress. Sometimes pretty rapidly, sometimes it's a little slower, depends on what stage of the building is.
Now, I've already heard enough about the whole York 4 thing, but the thing was that when Chuck came here, one thing he said was they're going to have to start. He says we're going to spend our way out of this and start improving the facilities and stuff and building stuff. How involved were you when some of those big stuff like the lodge and the office and all that stuff?
Well, the office didn't come along until later after they got here. They pretty much subbed that out, and we just cleared the lot off for the lodge building myself, and pretty much showed them where water was in the ground, and everything else they could figure out. But, and then the office was also not done in camp. I mean, it was done by contractors. Other than that, I didn't really get involved in it. Just keep them from digging up the wrong places. There's too many things buried.
Well, in 35 years, you're bound to have had other job opportunities or other opportunities in general come up. What is about Fallen Creek that's sort of kept you here for 35 years?
What kept me here for 35 years, well, they treat you very well. I was treated extremely well. And we're in residential and commercial building, where you might be working on a job here, and then the job wraps up, and now you got to move all the way the other side of the county or the other part of the state, and start the next job. And this is more stable. This is one place, and I didn't have to travel around all the time. I could stay in one place. Sometimes traveling is okay. Sometimes it's a pain being gone all the time. But I've enjoyed this, and I get to meet people from everywhere, which in big construction you did as well. But I get to meet people from different countries, different states, and it's an interesting job. And got to work with sometimes not with them, sometimes not. I did do wood crafts for part-time for a couple of years.
Oh, did you?
And taught wood crafts. And maintenance got to where there was not time for that. I didn't too much.
I didn't know you taught that. I know Dusty told me. I was talking to Dusty about some of the people and stuff. He said, Jerry came to my wedding in Alabama.
I drove. We went down to Birmingham, Alabama, to see his wedding. It's very nice. Very nice. Enjoyed ourselves.
So he's one of those staff members you actually did
get
to know well.
I got to know him quite a bit. With him, he worked with us, some on the little jobs that we had done, and then also running to him, talking to him throughout the summer or the summers, and he was also program director for a while.
Oh, that's right, he was. Yeah, he was program director.
Yes. That's before he married.
Okay.
That's been a while.
So the any other people like that you've gotten to know over the years? you know, friendly with and
Well,
stuff?
there's been many, but it's been a lot of years since I've seen some of them. I remember one that was John Steele. Came in, he helped me lay cedar shakes on the Crow Shack, which is the building there at tennis courts. And he left here and became a doctor working in the U.S. Navy. The last time I saw him, he came back here to Sioux Camp many years later, and he had actually retired from the Navy as a doctor. Skeet Keys, I don't know, there's so many that you come up, like Dr. David Brown, which was a counselor here at one time.
Did you, have you ever gotten to experience yourself any of the fun stuff at camp, just to try it out?
Just to try it out. Well, sometimes when I fix something, I get to try it out.
You've done a roller coaster?
Yeah, I've been on the roller coaster, but that's after you build some new roller coasters and or the new ramp, and well, somebody's got to test it, don't they? So do things like that. So that's fun. Climbing wall, get to do a little on that. But you kind of do that as you go up with it, build it. So by the time you get to the top, you kind of lost its thrill because you done been all over it and put the boards on it. I did most of the cutting on it. John Stevenson, Bill Wilson done the actual putting them on.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, anything else about your experience at Fallen Creek? I've said before, you know where all the bodies are buried. You know a lot of the secrets and a lot of the stuff that's going on.
all the hiding places, yeah, and things like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Just trying to remember. I remember when the office was the building right near the gym now, at the old office. I just walked up from the office and went up in the upper parking lot, and two Ford sedans come rolling in right quick. And they got out and he introduced himself, and remember his name I could not. But the next thing he said was FBI. I ain't never forgot that. And we're looking for Mr. Donnie Bain.
Donnie Bain, really?
And you know, your mind just pops a thought in his head real quick.
Yeah.
We're to say, well, he's right down here, or holler down the hill, run, Donnie, run! No, but they were here to doing a background check on a former counselor for a government job. So that's all it was. They were just trying to get background on somebody else, and this was one of his first jobs. So they were pretty thorough. I'm assuming they go everywhere wherever that person's been to do a background check. So
that's pretty funny.
So if they're going to do a background check on me, it'll be here most of it. So anyway.
That's funny. Anything else?
Right now, there's so many people. Terry Tyree, been here quite a long time. Garrett Randolph, Walt Cottingham Jr., Walt Cottingham Sr., remember Yates as a CIT here. Remember all that. There's a lot of others I don't remember that I got to work with.
Yeah.
I got to meet Bob Johns and so many, Star Teal. Thinking all these names, they just keep coming back. A lot of that were campers here in my early years. Some of them I got to do little projects with. Some of them are now CEOs of company and doctors and lawyers, and their kids are coming or have done aged out here. And a lot of former counselors and camp and directors that was here before, their kids are coming or have done aged out.
Yeah.
Makes me feel old when I see their kids when they weren't even married when they were here. So.
I imagine. Yeah. All right. Okay. Anything else you can think of right now? You probably will when I turn the camera off. And like I said, when next time I'm here, I've usually always got my camera with you. If there's the one you've absolutely positively got to tell me, I can always sit back up again.
Right. Yeah, I can remember adding on to the dining hall and different times and many other things, but right offhand, I can't think of all these. When you go from one job to the next, you can't remember them all.
I was just thinking if you had any real rough winters in which it was a close call to get camp ready for the summer.
One of the worst ones was probably 1985. We had an ice storm hit the 2nd of February in '85, and a little stem on a tree, which is normally about big as a matchstick, was probably a half to 3/4 inches in diameter with so much ice on it. And we drug brush for 8 weeks. We'd hired extra people, so there was close to 12 of us. 3 and 4 chainsaws going at the same time. Took us 8 weeks to clean up just camp. There's so much brush on the ground. Trees broken and cut. That was a very long, hard winter. By the time we got that done, then we had to hurry into the projects we'd already started before that, and finish them, plus get camp ready to open. Getting all the water on, the cabins ready, and various other things that we have to do. And keep up the mowing, bush hogging, and all that at the same time. It's challenging itself with all that. That's one of the roughest ones that we had. I can remember a few with some heavy snows, but didn't do the damage of it.
All right, well, we got a grinder going in the background now, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it on up. But like I said, if you think of any other stories,